I never thought a simple neighborhood barbecue would change the course of my marriage. My name is David. I'm 36 and I've been married to Emily for 12 years. By all outward appearances we were fine. Our friends always commented on how solid we looked, how we seemed to have it all together. We had a comfortable house in a quiet suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina, 2 kids, and a life that on paper looked perfect. But anyone who's lived in a long-term marriage knows the truth. Appearances can be deceiving. That Saturday the sun was bright, the grill was sizzling, and our neighbors were scattered across our backyard, beers in hand, laughing about trivial things. Emily was unusually quiet. Her smile was polite but distant. She greeted people, but I noticed the way her eyes would drift toward the fence line where our next-door neighbor Lauren was leaning against her garden gate, watching everything unfold with that subtle, confident curiosity that had always made her magnetic. I thought nothing of it at first. I was used to Emily zoning out at these gatherings, lost in her own head. But then halfway through she turned to me with that casual, almost careless tone that can cut deeper than any argument. "Go on the honeymoon by yourself," she said. I blinked. The charcoal crackled. The laughter around me felt distant, as if someone had turned down the volume on life itself. What?" I stammered, not immediately grasping what she meant. "You heard me," she said, flipping a strand of hair over her shoulder. "Go enjoy it. Don't wait for me." It wasn't a joke. Her tone carried that finality, the kind you get when you've spent years quietly detaching from someone, and finally decide it's time to let them feel the weight of that distance. I wanted to argue, to plead, to remind her of all the plans we'd made, the weeks we'd blocked off, the dreams of sandy beaches and sunsets we'd promised each other. But I couldn't. Not because I didn't want to, but because somewhere inside me a part of me already knew. Emily had stopped caring in ways she hadn't even admitted to herself. So I said nothing. I sipped my beer, pretending to listen to my friends. But my mind was spinning. And that's when I noticed Lauren leaning casually by the gate, her eyes on me, sharp and curious. There was no malice in her gaze, no judgment, just an attention that was both unnerving and oddly comforting. Emily left me there with the words hanging in the air, and I wandered toward the side of the yard, trying to make sense of it. Lauren stepped closer. "I heard what she said," she said quietly, almost conspiratorially. I nodded, unsure what to say. There was something about the way she spoke that felt like a lifeline, a thread to someone who might actually see me in that moment. "Yeah," I muttered. "I guess I'm on my own." She gave a small, knowing smile, like she understood more than I could put into words. "Sometimes being on your own is exactly what you need to figure out what's important," she said. And just like that, the seed of an idea took root, subtle but insistent. For weeks, Emily avoided any conversation about the honeymoon. She busied herself with work, errands, the kids, and every excuse she could find to ignore the growing tension between us. And all the while I thought about Lauren, about how she seemed to notice things others overlooked, about how she made me feel acknowledged without effort or expectation. It wasn't a sudden realization. It crept in slowly, like sunlight slipping through a curtain. I realized that Emily had been slowly withdrawing for years, little by little. Jokes ignored, touches brushed off, plans postponed. Though I had tried again and again to rekindle what we had, it was clear she had already moved on emotionally. Yet Lauren's presence reminded me of something else. The possibility of attention that felt sincere, of connection that wasn't measured in obligations or routine. And so when the day of the so-called honeymoon arrived, I packed my bag, tickets in hand, wondering if Emily even remembered our plans or if this trip was just a formality for me to realize the truth about us. I stepped outside, the morning sun warm on my face, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a spark of clarity. It wasn't just about the trip. It was about finally seeing what had been invisible for months. The emptiness, the distance, the indifference. And Lauren, well, she didn't just notice me. She noticed everything. The flight was quiet. I sat by the window watching the clouds drift by, each one feeling like a small reminder that I was leaving more than just my backyard behind. I wasn't angry, not really. If anything, I was calm. Calm in the way someone finally recognizes a truth that's been hiding in plain sight. Emily's words echoed faintly in my mind, not as a betrayal anymore, but as a confirmation. She had chosen her path and I had the right to choose mine. When I arrived at the resort in Maui, the warm ocean breeze hit me first, followed by the faint scent of salt and sunscreen. I walked along the beach, the sand soft under my feet, feeling the weight of months of silent disappointment slowly lift. The honeymoon I had imagined with Emily, filled with laughter and intimate moments, had been replaced by solitude. But in that solitude there was freedom, a strange, liberating kind of freedom. That evening after unpacking, I wandered toward the beach bar. The sun was dipping below the horizon, painting the sky with colors too vivid to ignore. And there she was, Lauren. I froze for a moment, unsure if my mind was playing tricks. But no, it was her. She waved casually, as if seeing me here was the most natural thing in the world. I walked over, heart racing, and she smiled. "Didn't expect to see me here," she said, her tone light but laced with curiosity. "I didn't expect to be here without her," I replied, a wry smile tugging at the corner of my lips. We talked for hours. Nothing rushed, nothing forced. She didn't ask about Emily directly, and I didn't volunteer. We shared stories, laughed at little things, and for the first time in months I felt genuinely seen. There was no pretense, no obligation. Just two people noticing each other fully in a way that Emily hadn't allowed for years. Over the next few days I explored the island with her. Long walks on empty beaches, late-night dinners under the stars, conversations that flowed effortlessly. I began to understand something fundamental. The problem hadn't been me. It hadn't been Emily either, not entirely. The problem had been the quiet erosion of love. The way a relationship can fade in silence while both people pretend everything is fine. And in that clarity, I realized I had been holding myself back, clinging to something that no longer existed. Lauren never pressured me, never hinted at taking the place of my wife. She simply existed as a mirror, reflecting back to me the version of myself that I had almost forgotten. The one who deserved attention, respect, and emotional reciprocity. That realization stung more than anything Emily had said. It was humbling, and yet it was liberating. On the last night of the trip, sitting on the balcony of my hotel room, I watched the moonlight ripple across the water. I thought about Emily, about the years we had spent together, and I felt something I hadn't expected: gratitude. Not for the marriage itself, but for the clarity it had given me, for the courage to walk away without bitterness, to accept reality as it was, not as I wished it to be. Lauren came by one last time to say goodbye. "I hope this trip gave you what you needed," she said, her voice gentle, almost knowing. "It did," I replied. "More than I expected. I feel alive again." She smiled. And for a moment it felt like the world had shifted slightly in my favor. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was possibility. And sometimes that was more powerful than anything. The flight home was different. I wasn't returning to the same life I had left behind. I was returning to a home that had changed irrevocably, but I was returning with a new understanding of myself, of what I would accept and what I would not. I knew Emily and I were done. Not with anger or vindictiveness, but with a quiet, unshakable clarity. When I walked through the door of my house, the air felt heavier than when I had left, but not in a bad way. It was a reminder that the life I thought I wanted wasn't the life I needed. And sometimes it takes someone outside your own world, a neighbor, a stranger, or even just yourself, to wake you up to that truth. I unpacked my bag slowly, savoring the silence. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the weight of expectation pressing down on my chest. I had survived indifference. I had survived rejection. And now, finally, I was ready to thrive. Lauren had shown me that attention, care, and genuine connection weren't things to beg for. They were things to recognize when they appeared and to never settle for less. And for the first time in a long time I realized I wouldn't.